My name is Clara Hayes. I'm 31, a clinical pharmacist, and for the past 4 years I've been paying the mortgage, property taxes, and insurance on my parents' lake house. They were celebrating their 35th wedding anniversary with a luxury Mediterranean cruise. I wasn't invited. Mom had called it a reconnection trip, saying they needed some quiet time, just the two of them, and that my brother, Leo, and his new fiancée were coming along to help them relax. I told myself it was fine. I was working double shifts anyway. But when I opened Instagram that evening, the polite lie I'd built shattered. Leo had posted a carousel of photos. My parents, dressed in linen, clinking champagne flutes on a private balcony. Leo and his fiancée laughing in the background. The caption read, "Just the four of us. Family is everything. So grateful for my favorite people." I stared at the screen, the blue light reflecting in my dark apartment. Just the four of us. I wasn't just excluded, I was erased. I didn't cry. I just felt a strange, hollow click in my chest, like a lock finally turning. I scrolled down to the comment box and typed, "Enjoy the cruise. The mortgage, taxes, and Leo's allowance are all yours now." I hit send. 5 minutes later, the post was deleted. 10 minutes later, my phone began to vibrate so hard it nearly walked off the nightstand. 30 missed calls. I didn't answer. I just sat there in the quiet of my apartment, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, realizing that my absence hadn't just been an oversight. It was a preference. If you've ever been treated like a utility by the people who were supposed to love you, keep watching. What happened next will make you rethink the true cost of family loyalty. And when this story ends, tell me in the comments, where do you draw the line between helping and being used? It had always been this way. Leo was the masterpiece and I was the frame nobody looked at. When we were kids, Leo would break a window playing baseball, and Dad would laugh about his spirited aim. If I got a B on a math test, Mom would sigh and ask if I was studying hard enough. As we grew older, the dynamic just scaled up. Leo was an entrepreneur, which was a polite word for someone who had expensive hobbies and no income. When his boutique coffee shop failed, I paid off the commercial lease. When his crypto ventures tanked, I covered his credit card minimums. Every time Leo's life imploded, my phone would ring. Not to check on my career, not to ask about my health, but to ask for a routing number. I told myself I was keeping the family afloat. I told myself that one day they would see my sacrifices and finally value me. They never did. To them, my success as a pharmacist wasn't a triumph. It was a resource to be mined. Leo's failures, on the other hand, were treated as tragic circumstances beyond his control. My father, David, was a man who avoided conflict like it was a physical disease. When Mom criticized my lack of a social life, he would stare at his newspaper and mutter, "Your mother just worries, Clara." He never defended me. His silence was his way of keeping the peace, even if it meant sacrificing me to the war. 1 week before the cruise, Mom called. Her voice had that sugary, fragile edge that always preceded a demand. She talked about the weather, my long hours at the pharmacy, and then smoothly transitioned into the cruise. "It's just going to be so intimate, sweetie," she said. "Just your father, Leo, and his lovely Sarah. We just need to focus on our marriage, you understand? I hope you aren't upset." I sat at my kitchen island, tracing the grain of the wood with my fingernail. "I'm not upset," I said. "Have a good time." She sounded immensely relieved. An hour later, a text from Leo popped up. "Hey sis, Mom said you were cool about the cruise. Don't work too hard. Catch up when we're back." I stared at the text. It wasn't just thoughtless. It was arrogant. He knew I was paying for the house they were leaving behind, and he didn't even have the decency to pretend to care. That evening, my coworker Maya found me staring blankly at the pill-counting tray. Maya was sharp, observant, and entirely immune to family guilt trips. Over lukewarm break-room coffee, I told her about the cruise. She didn't offer pity. She just looked at me over the rim of her mug and said, "Clara, you're not their daughter. You're their infrastructure. And infrastructure doesn't get invited to the party, it just keeps the lights on." The words stung because they were exactly what I had been trying not to admit. I went home that night and ordered a gift for their anniversary. A beautiful, leather-bound photo album. I wrote a nice card and mailed it. 3 days later, it was returned to my door, unopened. The return label had a sticky note on it in Mom's handwriting. "Clara, we are trying to travel light. Please don't send things to the house right now. Love, Mom." I stood in the hallway, holding the rejected album. The polite veneer finally cracked, and what was underneath wasn't anger. It was clarity. I walked to the trash can and dropped it in. That was the moment I stopped being a daughter and started being an auditor. Saturday night arrived. I was sitting on my couch, the rain tapping a steady rhythm against the window pane, when I saw Leo's post. Just the four of us. Family is everything. The betrayal didn't feel hot. It felt like ice water in my veins. I typed my comment, "Enjoy the cruise. The mortgage, taxes, and Leo's allowance are all yours now." I hit send. The immediate deletion of the post and the flood of angry calls that followed felt like a physical weight being lifted off my chest. When Mom finally left a voicemail, her voice was shrill, stripped of its usual sugary control. "How could you be so selfish, Clara? We are on vacation. You are being incredibly petty." Selfish, the word echoed in my mind. I had bought their house. I had paid for Leo's failures. I had funded their retirement. But because I finally asked to be seen, I was the selfish one. I turned my phone off and slept better than I had in years. 2 weeks passed. The silence from my end was absolute. I stopped the automatic mortgage transfer. I stopped the property tax escrow. I stopped the monthly help I sent to Leo. The first week, they ignored me, assuming I would cave. The second week, the panic set in. Mom sent passive-aggressive texts about the bank calling. Leo posted vague, depressing quotes on his story about fake people. But I didn't flinch. And then, the mail arrived. It was a thick envelope from the county recorder's office and our primary bank. I assumed it was a late notice for the mortgage. But when I opened it, the paper inside wasn't a mortgage statement. It was a home equity line of credit agreement, a HELOC, for $150,000. My breath caught in my throat. I flipped to the signature page. There, at the bottom, was my name, Clara Hayes, co-borrower. The signature was mine, or at least a flawless digital replica of it. I immediately called the bank. After being bounced between departments, I reached a loan officer named David Miller. I asked him to verify the HELOC. "Yes, Miss Hayes," he said, his tone professional and detached. "The line of credit was opened 3 weeks ago. It was authorized digitally through your online banking portal. The funds were dispersed to an external account belonging to Leo Hayes." "I didn't authorize this," I said, my voice terrifyingly calm. "I didn't log in." There was a pause. "The system shows the login originated from a recognized device, using your saved biometric passcode. Legally, the bank considers it authorized." I hung up the phone. My hands weren't shaking. My mind was perfectly crystalline clear. They hadn't just excluded me from their lives. They had used my identity to steal $150,000 to fund my brother's life, and they had tied my name to the debt to do it. They thought I was just the infrastructure. They forgot that infrastructure knows where all the pipes are connected. And they forgot that if you cut the main valve, the whole house floods. I didn't call my mother. I didn't call Leo. I called a lawyer. His name was Arthur Vance, a forensic financial attorney who looked at my documents with the cold precision of a surgeon. When he saw the digital signature logs, he actually smiled. "This isn't just a civil dispute, Clara," he said, tapping the paper. "This is identity theft and bank fraud. They accessed your portal, likely using your old fingerprint data from when you helped your dad with his taxes, and forged the secondary authorization. They put the debt in your name, but took the cash." "Can we freeze it?" I asked. "We can do more than freeze it," Arthur replied. "We can file an injunction, report the fraud to the bank's fraud department, and press criminal charges. But it means the bank will call the entire $150,000 due immediately. And since the house is the collateral, they'll foreclose," I finished. Arthur nodded. "Are you sure you want to do this?" I looked out his office window at the gray city skyline. "I've been paying for their house for 4 years," I said. "It's time they paid for their choices." The confrontation didn't happen over a dramatic dinner. It happened in Arthur's sterile, glass-walled conference room on a Tuesday morning. They arrived together. Mom was wearing her best pearls, her face set in a mask of righteous indignation. Dad looked tired, staring at the carpet. Leo walked in looking annoyed, checking his watch. "Clara, this is ridiculous," Mom started, before even sitting down, dragging us to a lawyer's office over a misunderstanding. "We just needed to bridge a gap for Leo's new business, and we were going to pay you back." I didn't look at her. I opened my folder and slid a manila envelope across the polished mahogany table. "That's the bank's IP log," I said, my voice steady. It shows the HELOC was authorized from an iPad registered to Leo. And this, I slid a second paper forward, is the audio transcript from the bank's security verification call. The one you made, Mom, when they called to verify my identity. Mom's face went pale. The color drained from her cheeks so fast she looked ill. I pressed play on my phone. The recording filled the quiet room. "Ma'am, I just need to verify that Clara Hayes is aware of this $150,000 equity draw," the bank representative's voice echoed. Mom's voice, smooth and practiced, replied, "Oh yes, Clara is fully aware. She's just at work and can't come to the phone. I have her full power of attorney, and she gave me her passcode. Everything is perfectly fine." The recording clicked off. The silence in the room was absolute. Leo shifted uncomfortably. "Mom, you told me you just used her login," he hissed. "I did what I had to do to keep this family afloat." Mom snapped, her voice cracking, the pearls trembling at her throat. She turned to me, her eyes wide and desperate. "Clara, please. We're your family. We made a mistake. Just sign the retroactive authorization. The bank will drop it." I looked at her. Really looked at her. I searched for the mother who was supposed to protect me, the woman who was supposed to love me unconditionally. But all I saw was a stranger who viewed me as a line item on a budget. "You didn't make a mistake, Mom," I said quietly. "You made a calculation. You calculated that I would forgive you because I always do. You calculated that my need for your love was stronger than my self-respect." I stood up and buttoned my coat. "But you miscalculated. I've already filed the fraud report. The bank has frozen the account and called the note due. And the district attorney will be in touch regarding the forged signatures." "You're destroying us!" Leo yelled, standing up, his entitled facade finally shattering. "You're gonna let them take the house over a stupid loan?" I paused at the door, looking back at the three of them. "I'm not letting them take the house, Leo. You did, when you stole my name, and Mom did, when she lied to the bank." I walked out. The heavy glass door clicked shut behind me, sealing off their panicked voices. The air in the hallway was cool and smelled faintly of floor wax. I took a deep breath, and for the first time in my life, my lungs felt completely empty of guilt. The fallout was swift and merciless. Without my mortgage payments, and with the $150,000 HELOC called due immediately, the house was underwater. The bank initiated foreclosure proceedings within a month. The bank's fraud department cleared my name from the debt, but the damage to my parents was done. They were forced to sell the lake house at a massive loss to cover the legal fees and the remaining mortgage balance. Leo didn't get off easy. Because his name was on the disbursement account, and the digital footprint led directly to his iPad, the district attorney charged him with 2 counts of financial fraud. He took a plea deal, 3 years of probation, restitution, and a permanent criminal record. His new fiancée, Sarah, left him before the trial even started. Mom called me once, after the house was sold. She was living in a cramped rental condo across town. Her voice was thin, aged by 10 years and 10 weeks. "Your father had a mild stroke from the stress," she whispered. "Is this what you wanted, Clara? To see us ruined?" I stood by my window, watching the autumn leaves fall in my complex. "I wanted to be your daughter," I said softly. "But you only wanted me to be your bank. I just closed the account." I hung up, and I didn't feel a shred of regret. 6 months later, I moved. I didn't stay in the city where every street corner held a ghost of my family's expectations. I bought a small, modern condo in Asheville, North Carolina. It has large windows, a balcony that overlooks the Blue Ridge Mountains, and a kitchen that is entirely, beautifully mine. I pay my own mortgage. I pay my own taxes. And every month, when the statements arrive, I open them, pay the balance, and file them away. No one calls to ask for more. No one guilts me for having enough. Sometimes, I think about the lake house. I think about the years I spent pouring my money and my energy into a foundation that was built on sand. I used to think that love meant carrying everyone else's weight. I used to think that if I just gave enough, sacrificed enough, they would finally see me. But I learned the hardest lesson of all. You cannot buy respect with your own depletion, and you cannot build a relationship on a foundation of unpaid emotional debts. Last night, I sat on my balcony with a cup of tea, watching the sun dip below the mountains, painting the sky in strokes of bruised purple and gold. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and approaching winter. My phone sat on the table, screen dark. No missed calls, no frantic texts, no demands. Just the quiet hum of the evening and the steady rhythm of my own breathing. I took a sip of my tea and smiled. I used to think that family was the most important thing in the world. Now I know that peace is. And peace, I've learned, is the most expensive luxury I have ever afforded. But looking out at my mountains, breathing my air, living my life, I know it was worth every single penny.